Mmm. Mmm. Oh man. Mmm. Mmm. This is so good. This is really good. Oh, hey. I didn't see you there. Hope everyone's doing well. I'm just sitting around here enjoying this nice, delicious chicken burrito. Mmm. Mm. This is really good. This is really good there. Just if you guys had a chance, you need to try this sometimes. It's really good. You may be wondering why you see me eating food. Well, because we have another census event that I would like to share, and it basically funny enough happens to involve food. This event is called the Culture, Cuisine, and the Census. Basically, we talked about the census and have food involved. This event is brought to you by the CUNY Census Corps and also Census Cooks, which was made by the CUNY Census Corps, which involves wonderful dishes from people all over the world in an event celebrating the 2020 census and food. In this event, we have Census Corps students talking about the census, talking about dishes and food, and also talking about cultures from all over the world. We also have guest chefs that gives us wonderful dishes like this. We basically learn delicious, unique recipes from local bakeries, chefs, and restaurants. We broke down myths and truths about the census. We hear from local politicians and community groups about why the census is especially important during COVID-19 and the Black Lives Matter movement, and we understood how to be a 2020 census advocate from your home, as I have at the Census Corps, and many others. I hope you're all hungry for this, so grab your appetite and food if you're eating while watching this. With that, here is the culture and cuisine and the census. Make sure you follow Census Cooks in Instagram or whatever platform they have. They mentioned it in the video. I could easily put it down in the description below and have you guys find it. I hope you enjoyed the dishes you're about to see and learning about cultures and story about immigrants and all that, because especially the dishes, it's really good, and I encourage you all to bear with us while watching this. So I hope you enjoy. So thank you, and remember, use your senses, take the census. Thank you, and enjoy this event. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm gonna continue to enjoy this chicken burrito. This is so good. I love this a lot.
My name is Nora, and this is feta, a traditional Arab dish made of garlic bread, rice, broth, and meat, topped with tahini sauce and salad. This dish is typically eaten during Eid, which is a religious holiday for Muslims. I fill out the census to make sure that the Muslim community gets counted and represented. Our voices deserve to be heard.
My name is Samira, and here I have a dish I recently have been loving: banana pudding. Banana pudding is amazing for all age groups, from kids to the elderly. I'm filling out the census to make sure there's enough funding for both my grandma and niece for the next 10 years. These groups are underrepresented and deserve to be counted.
My name is Fahim Hote, and here I have a traditional Albanian dish called baklava. This dish is so delicious, and it reminds me of my childhood. I am filling out the census to make sure that there is enough funding for all the children and all the schools.
My name is Antonio, and here I have one of my favorite dishes. Here's one of my favorite dishes. This dish is important to my Italian heritage, and funny enough, often includes eggs instead of meatballs as a nod to Italians not being able to afford meat, or so my mom tells me when she makes the dish on Sundays. I am filling out the census so communities can have proper funding for entities such as food pantries and food programs, among others.
My name is Caitlin. I have a tasty dish here of dumplings filled with tofu, shrimp, and vegetables. And then on the side, I have a homemade sauce made out of soy sauce, vinegar, and chili pepper flakes.
My name is Alejandrina, and this is ceviche de camarones served with fried plátano on the side. This citrusy seafood dish is a traditional Ecuadorian dish. It represents my Ecuadorian heritage, but also my broader Latin American community. I fill out the census to make sure that Latinos get fair political representation, so that our elected officials advocate our true concerns and not somebody else's agenda.
My name is Tiara, and I enjoy eating vegetable Thailand gyoza. It has cabbage, carrot, chives, green onions, and I enjoy having coconut aminos with it. Hi everyone, thank you for joining Census Core and Census Cooks at this live event here. I'm Tiara speaking, and this is Culture, Cuisine, and the Census. So thank you everyone for participating. This event has been put together from the idea of putting more attention on the census and combining what we all have in common with something that we all need to be aware of and know how to take active actions towards. All right, so CUNY Census Core and Census Cooks, I am a CUNY student, and this event was put together by CUNY students like myself, all ranging from different schools and different boroughs such as Queens, Brooklyn, Manhattan, all that have gathered to spread the word of the census. And due to COVID-19, we've had to take a lot of our work into our online initiatives and to continue our goals of educating and engaging and mobilizing people to complete the 2020 census. And the Census Core's campaign is a campaign that focuses on how to bring together community-based organizations and the New York City college campuses all towards the New York City Census 2020. So everyone be proud that you're all here right now, because the census is every 10 years, and we are all in this together as we learn more towards understanding the importance of us all being properly counted and represented. This event is also brought to you by Census Cooks, by a group of students who chose to highlight food and the main things that unite people, such as our differences and ways to be, okay. I am thinking too much about this. Let me just, okay. So as I said, I'm Tiara, and I have been a part of this project from the very beginning. So it means a lot that we are here right now, representing the different groups. As someone who goes to school at York College and representing the importance of culture, diversity, and inclusion, I thought of the idea to put together the Census Cooks, which brings us to this very event of combining students, chefs, and community organizations to focus on cuisine and what makes us enjoy a certain meal, and what connects to our passion when we are eating something. And at the end of the day, how are we connecting to our own heritage and our roots, and how does this affect and connect us to how we can to the world? So I'm going to make some space now for Julie, who will explain to you all about the census.
And thank you so much, Tiara. My name is Julie Kim, and I'm with NYC Census 2020. I just want to say congratulations to the CUNY Census Corps and Census Cooks team, and I want to thank them for all their hard work. This is an entirely student-run production, and I'm so proud of them. As the Queensboro lead at NYC Census 2020, I have to say it is bittersweet to see them all graduate from the course for the past 230 years. And why does it matter? That's because it represents our resources, our rights, it determines our representation, as well as redistricting. And in terms of resources, there's actually over $650 billion at stake. And the census data is used to determine how those federal dollars is distributed among cities and states across the country. And that includes funding for public schools, housing, roads, and bridges, and so much more. It also determines our representation in Congress. So every 10 years, it determines how many seats each congressional seat gets, each state gets in the House of Representatives. And so our full representation in Washington depends on an accurate count of the population. And one thing I do want to emphasize, especially with current climate, is the privacy of the census. Your responses to the 2020 census are confidential, secure, and it's protected. It's protected under Title 13 of the U.S. Census Code, of the U.S. Code. And so the Census Bureau cannot release any of its information about individuals, households, or businesses to any law enforcement agency or even to your landlord. And a question that we get is, should I fill out the census if I'm not on the lease or if I live in a basement apartment? The answer is yes. If you live in New York City, if you live in the United States, you need to fill out the census. And I just want to also emphasize that the 2020 census is a very, very, very important issue currently. It actually is important because the census has excluded certain communities at really, really high rates in the past, including people of color, low-income households, and young children. And so we need to make sure that everyone fills out the census and that we all deserve equal representation and access to resources. So how do you fill out the census? So for the first time ever, you can actually fill it out online at my2020census.gov. You can also respond to the census on the phone in multiple languages, as well as mailing in the census form that you may have received. And what will you be asked? You'll be asked for your full address, how many people live in your household, what type of home you live in, the names of the people in your household, the age, the sex, ethnicity, and race, and how the other people in your house or apartment are related to you. As you know, in New York City, we might be living with roommates, so we need to make sure that everyone that we live with will also get counted. So let's think of a census this way. It's 10 questions in under 10 minutes, and it'll determine the next 10 years. And all the information is going to be secure and not shared with anyone. And filling out the census is easy, safe, and important. And one of the things that I want to talk about today is that time is actually running out. We actually have only until September 30th. We only have until September 30th now to fill out the census. And census takers will be out and are currently out and about going to your door knocking on doors to make sure everyone's filling out their census, but we need to do our own part in making sure that we can also self-respond, as I've mentioned earlier, through online or on the phone or filling out your mailing ballot. And why are we doing this event today? And that's because the average self-response rate in New York City in 2010 was actually only 62%. The national average was 76%. That's more than 10% below the national average, that New York City's national self-response rate was over 10% lower. And as of right now, as of today, the national self-response rate is 63%. And New York City's self-response rate is 54%. That means we still have a lot to go in terms of making sure that we get the representation and resources that we need. And I just want to end with saying that with the census, we need to make sure that we don't just fill it out for ourselves, but we take time out to call our friends and family and also let them know that they should be filling it out, because hearing it from you will be extremely important. So thank you so much, and please fill out your census today. Back to you, Tiara and Kaylee.
Hi, good afternoon, evening, everybody. Thank you so much for joining, and thank you so much for all of that amazing and incredibly important information, Julie. Our next act is a community-based organization centered in helping our great city of New York. They have been extremely generous in letting us stream this evening onto their Facebook page. So please welcome Fadia from Common Point, Queens.
Hello, hi everybody. Thanks so much for having me. This is so exciting, and that food looks so delicious that now I'm extremely hungry. So I think after this, I'm gonna have dinner. Anyways, thanks so much again. I'm gonna share my screen with everyone, and I'm gonna tell you a little bit more about Common Point, Queens and all the great things that we get to offer. At the same time, I will also talk about a little bit more about the census. So, what is Common Point, Queens? We are dedicated to serve our community, our Queens community. Our mission is we are dedicated to sustaining and enhancing the quality of individual families and communal life throughout Queens through services to people of all ages, ability levels, stages of life, and backgrounds. So here are some resources that we offer for our beautiful, diverse community here in Queens. We have ESL classes, HSC classes, digital literacy. So if you want to learn more about computers, you want to get your high school GED, your high school diploma, we also have different classes that are going to help you, trade classes that can help you with your career. And if you're looking for work, you need help with your resumes. We've got an amazing team in our workforce that helps you not only find a job, they help you with your resume, they get you ready for your interviews. It's a pretty amazing team, and they're very good at what they do. Other really great things that we do for families is we help families get SNAP, Medicaid, and Medicare, which is, especially now with everything that's happening, these are resources that are very important for families who are maybe are not working, or in lower income neighborhoods, or just, just struggling right now, especially with unemployment, being so high because of coronavirus. We're here to help. Financial counseling, legal counseling, tax preparations. We have an amazing pantry, which you're going to learn more about in a little bit. All these resources are free for our communities. We definitely have a lot of other great things. We have beacon programs, after school programs, community service, internships. I mean, the list goes on, but I just wanted to share some of the highlights of our business and how we are here for you, and if you need anything. You can always go to our website to find out a little bit more about the other services that we have. But how can we provide all these services? How can companies like Common Point Queens grow? How can we serve our community? Very simple. One of the many ways that you can help us continue with these resources is by filling out your census. You heard it from Julie, and you heard the importance of the census from many people. If you fill out your census, we find out how many people live in each community. This is how we get our funding, right? And in order for us to start programs or any organizations or just the city, the state, if for them to start programs or to find out which programs are most important, whether it's something in the library, something in schools, or hospitals, what kind of hospital, how big the hospitals need to be, all the resources that we need and all the funding that we need, we get it from our census data. This is how we know which community needs the most help, funding, etc. So by you filling out your census, you're helping out your community, and you're getting the money, we're getting the money that we deserve. So this money is there already, and it's going to be distributed by different states, right? This is why we're counting everybody. This is money that belongs to us. And if we don't fill out the census, somebody else is going to get it. So make sure that you and your family fill out your census. And one of the greatest things is you have to be, you only have to be 15 to fill it out. So if you want to help your family, your mom or your dad, your uncle, your grandmother, your family members, and you're 15 years old, you can actually help out and you can actually do it. This is one way that you can give back to your community. Many ways that we are doing our census outreach is we're doing virtual events. We're going to pantries. We're visiting different events in our communities. So you probably will see us out there. And if you do come and say hi, we have a lot of gifts from the Census Bureau. And we just want to make sure that everybody gets counted because it's absolutely, it's the most important thing you can do right now. So talking about that, Jay is going to talk to you guys a little bit about the pantry, but I want to talk to you about one more thing since we're talking about food. And also here are some of our locations. And again, you can go to www.commonpointqueens.org to find out more information. So I'm from Bolivia. My dad's Lebanese, but I was born in Bolivia, and I wanted to share this amazing dish that we have, and it's called salteña. Not many people know about our salteñas because it's not really popular, but I want to make sure that you go to this restaurant called Puerta de Sol, which is in Woodside. And this is what we call our empanadas. So the bread is a little bit sweet, and then the inside has got beef, chicken, potatoes, olives. Sometimes it has raisins, sometimes it doesn't, but it's very juicy. And there's a trick to eat this. You cannot just eat it because if you bite it, it falls all over the place. You have to take the top off and get a spoon and eat it. It's kind of like eating a stew in a bread, but it's absolutely delicious. So we're talking about food, and we're talking about community, and we're talking about the diversity that Queens brings together, and this is why we all need to make sure we get counted. Because, again, we're, the best borough in the world, right? But anyway, so here, go to Puerta del Sol whenever you have a chance, have a salteña, tell them Fadia sent you, and make sure you fill out your census and get yourself counted, because one of the reasons why we need to fill it out, besides everything that we talked about, is that we need to show our diversity. We need to show who we are, and we need to make sure that our voices are counted because we matter. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you again, Fadia and Common Point Queens. Now we have Jay. Now we have Jay Rojas, who works with Common Point Food Pantry. True to its nature, Jay will be sharing some tasty recipes. So without any further ado, here is Common Point Food Pantry.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. My name is Jay Rojas. I'm the pantry coordinator at Common Point Queens. A little bit about Common Point. We're a full-time kosher pantry. During the pandemic, our numbers have exploded exponentially. We've been able to help around 5,000 individuals every month during the pandemic. Before, we used to assist about 1,000 people every month before the pandemic. Now our numbers have grown to about 5,000 a week. Anyway, just to give you a little quick overview, we receive, it's a kosher pantry, so all the items that we receive here are kosher, and we receive a lot of fresh vegetables, fresh produce. And so some of my volunteers made some recipes for us. I'm going to flip the camera so that I could show you the recipes. And we're going to start with some salads. We have a potato salad here, okay, by our volunteer Soya Yakubova. And these are the ingredients: carrots, potatoes, white onions, pickles, dill, olive oil, and a bit of salt and pepper, and mayonnaise. This is delicious, guys. Made from all the ingredients from the pantry. Now we have here a red salad. And the red salad includes beets, cabbage, carrots, potatoes, white onions, dill, olive oil, and a bit of salt and pepper. And you could see all the ingredients there and the steps to make these two salads, which when they make them for us, everybody loves them. Okay, we're going to start with some, we're going to go on now with a couple of soups. Here we have a Middle Eastern style lentil soup by Anna Mizrahi. She actually works with me here at the food pantry. And oh my goodness, this is amazing. This is amazing. Ingredients, diced white onions, crushed cumin seeds, crushed garlic, cilantro, diced carrots, diced tomatoes, lentils, diced zucchini, potatoes, chicken or vegetable stock, and olive oil. I had some of this today, and oh my goodness, it was amazing. And then we have a minestrone alla italiana by Ninette Parente. She's one of our CQ volunteers, and I had some. She brought it yesterday. This was phenomenal, also. And in there, she has white onions, zucchini, carrots, tomatoes, black beans, barley, elbow pasta, parsley from our garden here at Common Point, a bit of salt and pepper, and you could pair this with saltines or challah bread. Phenomenal. And now I'm going to show you the stars, the 2 stars to me of our recipes right now. Just look at this. Okay, these are stuffed zucchinis by Ninette Parente also. Okay, and she uses white onion, zucchini with the insides scooped out, garlic, grated, locali cheese, it's an Italian cheese, a ricotta, spicy red pepper, homemade special cream that she makes with milk, flour, butter, salt, and nutmeg, and eggs, and yellow corn. This is phenomenal. Okay, and the real star of the show for us right now are this. Can you guys guess what this is? These are actually the zucchini flowers. They're the actual flowers, and she makes fritters with them. This is also by Ninette Parente. Okay, ingredients are the zucchini flowers, white onions, eggs, hot pepper, mozzarella cheese, grated Parmesan cheese, salt and pepper. And there is the steps in how to make this. Okay, I hope you guys could make these yourselves and enjoy it and pass it on to all your friends. Thank you.
That looked absolutely delicious. Thank you so much to Jay and to Common Point Pantry for sharing those meals and recipes. It is so important to introduce ourselves to different cultural foods and recipes, to include different varieties of cultures and of lifestyles that we might not always be familiar with. It's always extremely important to do that. So next, I would like to present Jeremiah Cedeno, the CUNY Census Corps Bronx Brooklyn lead, who will be talking about the amazing work done at Hunger Free America.
Thank you, Kaylin. I don't know how to follow that up because truthfully now I'm really hungry. So thank you. That was really good, Jay. And I made sure to jot down some of those recipes. As mentioned, Jeremiah Cedeno, I'm with New York City Census 2020, but I'm talking about the amazing group, Hunger Free America. And Hunger Free America dedicates themselves to advocating for anti-hunger policies. They are a national leader in innovative solutions to hunger. Their advocates work tirelessly. These people work really hard. They work around the clock to fight for policies that bring access to food and fight for equitable access to these resources. They have pantries all throughout the city. They have different types of food, different types of advocacy work that's done there, and they have a hotline. If you need food, if you're having trouble accessing these these resources, they have 2 numbers. One is 866-3-HUNGRY. That's for English. 1-866-3-HUNGRY. And the other one in Spanish is 1-877-8-HAMBRE. 1-877-8-HAMBRE. Once again, Hunger Free America is an amazing organization. They fight to improve federal food programs, increase wages, and reduce poverty. In a time when we are, as a city, as organizations, as people, we are fighting for the census, for people to have access to resources and representation. Hunger Free America's work is so pivotal to the fight for equity to the fight for access to resources. Filling out the census is really important because programs like these depend on funding and depend on the assistance from the federal funding from the census, right? And so whatever you're doing, please take the time when you're having dinner, when you're using one of these amazing recipes that Jay showed us a few minutes ago, while you're cooking these meals up, please take the time and fill out the census. It takes 10 minutes. 10 minutes impacts the next 10 years. Thank you again for having me. I'm going to go now and put some of these recipes to use. I appreciate it. Congratulations to everybody for an amazing event. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jeremiah. The work done at Hunger Free America is truly admirable. I would also like to thank everybody who is joining now to our amazing event of Culture, Cuisine, and the Census. We appreciate you being here so much. So far, we have had an amazing presentation about the census, a presentation about the amazing work done at Common Point, Queens, and delicious recipes that will be shared on our Instagram at Census Cooks. So thank you so much for tuning in tonight. And now we will be sharing a video from Chef Jorge, a student at the Institute of Culinary Education.
Hi and good afternoon. My name is Jorge Villatoro and I'm a student at the Institute of Culinary Education. So one of the dishes that I'll be teaching everybody how to cook, which is also near dear to me, is a dish called plátano empanada con leche. So what it pretty much is we'll be using plantains and we'll be making a sweet milk based custard that will be filling inside it. So the thing that makes plátano empanada very close to me is that it's some dessert that is made in Central America. So besides the milk custard we're going to make, it's also, you could also fill it up with beans or meat. And what makes it very, very close and personal to me is because in my family we go to Central American restaurant in Jamaica, Queens to celebrate something big, and we usually end it with ordering that. So, you know, every time I eat that is because, you know, something has been accomplished or something's going well in life. And I'm hoping that teaching you guys this will give you the same kind of joy that it gave me as a kid. That's right. So some of the ingredients to make plátano empanada con leche is plantains. So these are, I cut them up. These are 3 plantains. The riper they are, the sweeter it's gonna be. We have a cup of milk right here. 5.5 tablespoons of sugar. So we'll be using 2.5 for boiling the plantains, and then the rest will go into the milk custard we're gonna be making. 3 tablespoons of cornstarch, 1 vanilla bean. If you can't get vanilla bean, I highly recommend you guys getting vanilla extract, and all you need is a 1.5 tablespoon of it, and then 1 cinnamon stick. All right. So the first step we're gonna do is we're gonna have some boiling water. So you want to make sure you have enough to submerge the plantains. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna start putting them in the boiling water. All you gotta do is put your cinnamon stick in the boiling water as well, and you'll be putting 2.5 tablespoons of sugar. So. And you're gonna let that boil. You'll know that your plantains are cooked when you notice that the flesh inside the plantains are literally popping out and that the skin isn't able to hold it anymore. So the rest of this will go into our milk custard. So now the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna be making the milk custard. So you're gonna need another small sauce pot. In the meantime, I'm going to cut this vanilla bean in half. Well, not in half, but just make a slight incision so I can open it up, and you will see. Hold on. You'll be open it, grab a knife, and run it along. So you see, back in a knife, and then you're gonna be collecting all that goodness. And this will be going into your vanilla. So the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna put another pot, and pour only 3/4. You'll see why we need to keep 1/4 of this in a few minutes. Now we're going to be adding the vanilla seeds that we got. Let's get it right in there. And we're going to be adding the rest of our sugar. So this is what we're going to do with the other 1/4 of the milk that we have. So we're going to put it right here, and we're going to be whisking our cornstarch. So we're going to make a kind of like a slurry. We want to incorporate it into the milk as much as possible. So just going to whisk it until you don't really see much of it left, or until it's well incorporated with the milk. So what we're going to do is we're going to be putting it with the rest of our milk custard, and you're about to see what's going to happen when we have our milk and our milk cornstarch slurry. So all you gotta do is just... So once we're done mashing the plantains, it should have like a unison consistency. So you see you don't really have that much lumps. You place it in your hand and it stays together. Just finished molding our platanus empanadas. Like I said, they're gonna kind of look like footballs, and that's what you want. And the last thing we have to do now is fry them. So we want to keep it in medium heat, and all we're doing is pretty much frying it. So, hear that? That's the noise you want to finally coat it with a golden brown crust to it. We have our platanus empanada. As you can see, it has been round completely and everywhere. And now let's get to the best part. Do a little cross section, cut in the middle, and boom. See? Nice delicious filling. You have plantains all over it. Alright, and there you go. Hope you guys enjoy this video. Please feel free to try this recipe, it's delicious. Very good.
Okay, so I'm thinking that it wasn't a good idea for me to not eat dinner as yet, because all of these amazing recipes making me kind of hungry. Thank you so much to Chef Jorge for that delicious plantanos recipe. And now we will have a presentation by Melanie Tarazona from Queens Public Library.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hello, good afternoon. Today I'll be presenting Census Navigator 10 dishes. We speak your languages. 7 train known as the international train because you can travel around the world along the route. Queens is one of the most diverse counties, not only in New York, but also in the US. This diversity is well represented with different dishes from around the world, and here we show just a few examples. Next, please. Dumplings is a common Chinese dumpling, which generally consists of minced meat and finely chopped vegetables rubbed into a piece of dough skin. Popular meat fillings include ground meat, usually pork, but can instead be beef or chicken, shrimp, and even fish. Filling mixtures will vary depending on personal tastes, region, and season. These are usually boiled and steamed or fried and continue to be a traditional dish eaten on Chinese New Year's Eve, especially for family reunions and extended family or friends gathering. Before make and cook dumplings, the cookers will estimate the numbers of dumplings they'll need. They will count the population who will attend without missing even a baby, just like what we are doing in the census. New York City has the largest Chinese population of any city outside of Asia. And within the US, with an estimated population of 628,763 as of 2017, tens of thousands of Chinese immigrants living in Chinatowns in New York City, such as Flushing, Elmhurst, Corona, and Weston, Queens. We need to be counted in the census so that the government will hear our voices and know how many dumplings we need. Here by the dumplings, I mean all kind of funding and resources such as schools, hospitals, childcare, senior care, and more. So let's get counted for dumplings. Next, please. Ceviche is a seafood such as shrimp and raw fish marinated in lemon juice. It has different presentations in some Latin American countries, such as Colombia, Ecuador, Mexico, and Peru. As you may know, the Spanish-speaking community is the largest in New York City, with 24.2% of all the population that speak Spanish at home. In Queens, most of the Spanish-speaking people live in Corona, Jackson Heights, and Elmore. The other side of the story is that New York is in the top 5 list of undercounted states. Also, there was a net undercount of nearly 400,000 young Latino children aged 0 to 5 in the 2010 census. That is more than 36% of the total net undercount for all children under age 5. Thinking about these children for better or more social programs and infrastructure at schools, hospitals, housing, and transportation. Next, please. Biryani is a South Asian dish made with long grain basmati rice flavored with spices. It can be laid with chicken, lamb, fish, or vegetables with tea gravy. After assembling all the ingredients in a pot, the pot is then covered and cooked on the low flame for about an hour. The South Asian community, which consists of people from countries such as India, Pakistan, and Bangladesh, has a population of over 300,000 in New York City, with the largest concentration living in Queens. The South Asian community has been historically undercounted, and they mostly reside in hard-to-count areas, such as Richmond Hill, Jackson Heights, and South Corona, which are significantly behind the city overall self-response rate, with self-response rates in the 42 to 45% range. This has resulted in lack of political presentation for the community, as New York City currently has no South Asian or Indo-Caribbean elected officials. Despite South Asians being the fastest growing community in the city, with significant populations in Queens, the Bronx, and Brooklyn, it is ever more important that we get full count for this community. If the census data doesn't represent an accurate count of South Asian communities, we will lose billions in funding for communities, school, hospital, roads, and more. Next, please. Bengali sweets is a milk-based sweet, making a variety of shapes, sizes, and textures. Cane sugar is mixed with diced fruits and nuts, mixed into dry corn for flavor and rolled by hand. Bengali are among the top 10 languages spoken by foreign-born in New York City residents who do not use English at home. Over 300,000 South Asians live in New York City, with the largest group on Queens. So it is our job to get a complete and accurate count of everyone's living in these undercounted communities, such as Jackson Heights, Flushing, Bay Ridge, and other neighborhoods. So as you may know, Queens is the most diverse and multicultural borough, and we need to be counted. So thank you for all the navigators that provide with all this amazing information and dishes. Thank you.
A giant thank you to Queens Public Library and to Melanie for that beautiful presentation tonight. Thank you for reminding us about why it is so crucial that we fill out the census and show off how diverse our communities really are. And thank you for sharing those yummy meals. If you would like to see more delicious recipes and learn more about the importance of the census, please go to our Instagram page at Census Cooks, where we share diverse recipes, tips, and more. Now, we would like to introduce a video from Brandon Lim, the Instagram food influencer known as Eating with the Lim.
Today, I'm going to show you how to make Thai tea panna cotta. What I really like about this recipe is that it requires so few ingredients and it is so easy to make. I got inspired to make this because Thai tea is so popular. First, we're gonna heat up some milk so that we can steep the tea leaves. Make sure you purchase leaves that don't have sugar added. I love that Thai tea is so popular these days so that we can find Thai tea basically anywhere, and if you can't find it in a store near you, you can definitely find it online. You're gonna wanna mix the Thai tea leaves into the milk so that it can steep properly. For the classic Thai tea drink, typically you would steep this in hot water. However, I didn't want to water this dessert down, so I steeped it in milk. The cool thing about this dessert is that it combines two cultures into one. Once it's finished steeping, you're gonna want to strain it. Growing up in New York City, the food options were so diverse. I was truly blessed to have access to food from many different cultures. I think it's important to understand how culture affects the person we all grew up to be. While every culture has its differences, I think the main connecting factor will always be food. Food just brings people together in a wonderful way. I just love that when it comes to food, there are no special requirements that you need to enjoy it. You don't even have to speak the language because sometimes food can just speak for itself. I think when it comes to fusion food, it's important to respect the cultures that the food comes from. Taking the extra step to learn about the culture will definitely create a better understanding behind the origin of the dish. One of the biggest problems in today's society is that some cultures are just being forgotten. There are just so many aspects of a culture that some are bound to get lost. I think each individual has a responsibility to keep their culture alive. Now more than ever, we should represent our culture and don't let it fade away. These days, there are just so many ways we can represent our culture. That's number one reason why I love food so much. It can express one's culture without actually saying anything. I know my experience with culture isn't going to be the same as everyone. One advice I can give is to always be proud of your culture. However, this doesn't mean you can't love other cultures as well. Through this recipe, I wanted to show that you can showcase flavors from cultures in different ways. To come up with this recipe, I looked up the most authentic way to make panna cotta, and then I infused it with Thai tea flavor. Traditionally, panna cotta is a sweetened cream thickened with gelatin. Therefore, the flavor is very simple and you can basically infuse it with any flavor you'd like. Over the course of time, the term fusion food has been used so loosely. Sometimes a fusion dish just works and sometimes it doesn't. Proper fusion foods includes using flavors from one culture and using it with ingredients from another. When done properly, fusion foods can absolutely bridge one culture to another. This is exactly why it's so important to do research into the culture and the dishes before you fuse two dishes together. Once you have an understanding of how flavors and ingredients work together, the possibilities are endless. I'm not saying I'm an expert at fusion food, but sometimes you just know what works and what doesn't work. Hopefully I inspired some of you to get out there and be proud of your culture. Don't let anyone take that away from your identity. I also want you to get out there and discover some new cultures because there are some that are so underrated. Thanks for watching, and if you like this video, you can check out the recipe on eatingwithblim.com. Everyone, it's Brandon here from Eating with Blim today to talk about why it's so important for you to fill out the 2020 census. 2020 is not only important because it's the election year, but also because the US Census is taking place. This is your chance for your voice to be heard for the next 10 years, not the next 4 years, the next 10 years. In the last decade, 2010, only 62% of New Yorkers filled out the census. That means we were being undercounted for. That means we were underrepresented. We were getting less funds, less resources, which we cannot let happen for the next decade. So get out there, go to my2020census.gov to fill it out. Tell your friends, tell your family, everyone. This is your chance to make your voice have the biggest impact. So get out there and get your city counted properly so we can get the proper funds and resources that we deserve.
Thank you so much to Brandon Lim for that video. It was so beautiful to see how he mentioned the census and brought everything together to have that special meaning. Thank you again, Brandon Lim. Now we will be introducing Carmelita Cunningham. She is a president of the North Shore Flushing branch of the National Association of University Women, and she will be presenting a yummy recipe of her own.
Hi, everyone. As Tiara said, my name is Carmelita Cunningham, and I am the president of the Flushing North Shore branch of the National Association of University Women. We are an organization of college-educated women whose mission is to serve women, youth, and the disadvantaged in our communities through addressing educational issues and partnering with like-minded organizations, such as we're doing right now. Flushing North Shore branch specifically serves the North Queens area, which reports historically and currently low census numbers. So to encourage participation in the census and for everyone to be counted for programs and resources, I'd like to share a recipe for something that unites us all, food. Now, to me, there's nothing more comforting than something freshly baked coming from your oven. So here is my recipe for my carrot cake banana bread. I hope everyone enjoys and complete your census. This is my carrot cake banana bread. It's super easy to make, delicious, and a definite crowd pleaser for anyone who likes banana bread and carrot cake. The first step is to preheat your oven to 350 degrees. Then you will prepare a loaf pan with nonstick cooking spray. In a large bowl, you'll mash 2 bananas that I've already mashed, 2 beaten eggs, half a cup of melted butter, a 1/3 cup of honey, and a teaspoon of vanilla extract. In a medium bowl, you will mix your dry ingredients. This is a 1.5 cups of flour. And then in this bowl, I have already combined a teaspoon of baking soda, a 1/2 teaspoon of salt, a 1/2 teaspoon of cinnamon, and a 1/4 teaspoon of nutmeg. You'll want to make sure that you whisk this together well, because the worst thing that could happen is to have a clump, a baking soda, bake into your bread. It doesn't taste good, and nobody wants that. So we'll just make sure that everything is incorporated very well. We're going to take our dry ingredients now and add them to our wet ingredients. And you will want to make sure that this is mixed completely until it's well combined. You do not want to see any dry flour in here. It should look like this. Now we are going to add a cup of shredded carrots. You can either do this by hand or you can buy them pre-shredded from the supermarket. If you so desire, now is when you will add raisins and or walnuts. And it'll be a 1/2 cup of each. So a 1/2 cup of raisins and or a 1/2 cup of walnuts. And we'll mix this together until it is well combined. And then the last step is to transfer it into your loaf dish and bake for 45 to 55 minutes or until a clean toothpick inserted into the middle comes out clean. Serve and enjoy.
Carmelita, that looked so delicious. I love everything about that. I will definitely be making it soon. And I just wanted to give a quick shout out to the Black Lives Matter movement because it's extremely important, and your recipe just gives me those warm vibes that you would get at from a banana bread or a carrot cake, or both, because your recipe is the best of both worlds. So now we want to introduce to you Chef Kobe, who is also a student at the Institute of Culinary Education.
Hello everyone and welcome to Cove's Kitchen. Today's recipe is shrimp and grits. If you do not know, I am from the mighty state of Georgia, so we're down here in the South. And this is one of my hometown favorites that I used to make with my mom and my grandma, and it's just so good. So let me show you how I did it. I went ahead and bought deveined shrimp already, but they have a vein on the bottom that you just cut through and then take the little vein out. And then you're gonna go ahead and do that for the rest of the bag. You take your shrimp, you flip it on the bottom, and you slice right through there. You'll see the little black line. You slice through there, you take it out. If your shrimp are not deveined, you're gonna have to do this for the top as well. And so then you are going to go ahead and split your shrimp into two because, ooh, plot twist, we are going to do a batch of fried shrimp and a batch of sauteed shrimp. Once I had that split up, I went ahead and I seasoned my shrimp. I cheated a little bit and I used a seasoning packet, and it had garlic powder, paprika, Old Bay, all that good stuff, but you can season it however you would like. I went ahead and I mixed the seasoning all around on my shrimp because I was gonna let this sit. For my sauteed shrimp, I went ahead and turned the seasoning into a marinade. So I added a little bit of oil and then I massaged that around. And you're gonna add it you don't want it super oily, but you definitely want a little bit of moisture in there. And then to go ahead and cut that oil and not make it greasy, you're gonna add a little bit of vinegar and stir that around. I also did add some hot sauce to this one because that's like vinegar as well. So if you don't feel comfortable adding plain vinegar, you can add hot sauce and get a little spice from it as well. So as I was marinating in my refrigerator, I went ahead and warmed up some milk for my grits. You let the milk come to a boil, and then this is when I first added the grits in. They just sunk to the bottom. You couldn't see them over the milk. And then after you let them sit, they'll slowly get thicker. If you don't know what grits are, they're a type of cornmeal, and you cannot eat them raw. They need to be completely cooked. They're going to be creamy by the time they're done. And then back to our shrimp. For the fried shrimp, I'm gonna go ahead and bread them, and that's just a little bit of seasoned flour and our shrimp in the bag. I seasoned the flour with the seasoning mix we used before and a little bit of salt, and now you're gonna shake, 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 shake. It's best to do this in a plastic bag or a paper bag if you have, so you can just throw it away when you're finished. And then you're gonna tap off the extra flour and see if your oil is ready. You see it's ready because it bubbles as soon as you put it in there. Then I went ahead and fried my second batch of shrimp. If you're gonna do a third batch, you don't want to do it for this long, but I fried my shrimp for like 3 minutes. If you don't know, you can always do a test shrimp and see where it's at because our oils might be at different temperatures. Yours might be a little bit hotter than mine, so I don't want to give you an exact time. But here's how they look when they came out. And then here's your grits when they're almost done. I added a little bit more milk so I could let them sit while I sauteed my shrimp. But this is the point where you want to add your cheese. You add your cheese, you add whatever seasoning you want. I did a little bit of the seasoning packet from before with some salt and pepper. And then you stir in your cheese, and this cheese is smoked Gouda and some cheddar, and it was so good and creamy. After I put my cheese in, I went ahead and sauteed the shrimp because I knew that would only take a few minutes and I still wanted my grits to be nice and fresh. So I went ahead and poured the marinade and the shrimp in the pan with butter, and I let my marinade cook down, and you can throw that on top of your grits as gravy. But once that is done, honey, fix you up a bowl with some fried shrimp and some sauteed shrimp, and here it is.
Thank you so much to Kobe for sharing that beautiful recipe. That is one of my close friends, so it means a lot to me to see her up here sharing her gifts as she recently joined a culinary academy here in New York. So also I wanted to shout out again, the Black Lives Matter movement, because this is a recipe from the South, and shrimp and grits is one of the best things you can make in a small amount of time. And if you're interested in trying shrimp and grits, I suggest trying her recipe, Kobe's recipe. It'll be available at the Census Cooks Instagram. But we're gonna move on now to Right now, we'll take a minute to shout out some of the audience members. So right now we have Constance M. Brown here supporting us. Thank you, Constance. We have Dion Taylor, Jean Lewis, if that's your whole name, awesome. If that is really cool. And I know that we have Chantal Ayuso here, and Jose Manuel, and Dennis Cunningham. Shout out to all of you for joining us, and thank you so much for your support. And now we're gonna go to introducing Yilin. We are extremely appreciative of your work, Yilin. And we would like to now welcome you, Yilin Wang, one of our cultural liaisons for CUNY Census Corps and one of the crucial supporters behind the scenes helping us for tonight's events. Take it away, Yilin.
Hi, everyone. My name is Yiling Wen, and I'm the Queens Cultural Liaison for New York City Census 2020. First of all, I want to say I'm so honored to be here to present and to work with groups of brilliant students in launching this social media campaign. But today I want to talk a little bit about my immigration story and why I think census is so important for the immigrant communities. So I came to United States around 10 years ago to pursue my studies at Pace University. So at that time, things were actually very difficult. I was not able to communicate very well with my classmates and my friends. It's not that I did not want to, it's that I think there are some cultural barriers and I just don't quite get what my American friends are thinking. So after that, I graduated, I got a job working for a nonprofit organization promoting Chinese arts. Things are still even more difficult. I was definitely not up to the challenge that was presented to me because as an international student, you have to work extra hard. You have to put more times compared to other people in order to get the working visa to stay in the United States. So that's the reality. I want to stay here, but I have to work days and nights in order to get the job approval, the H-1B visa. But with the determination and with the persistence, I was very lucky. I got the job visa, and several years later, I got my dream job. I was a news reporter for a Chinese newspaper company. And I think that experience really made me think about what is going wrong around me, especially the immigrant communities. So I was able to cover a lot of stories for the Queens, especially Flushing, which there are millions, I want to say thousands of Asian and Chinese communities reside. And I got to see the firsthand how the immigrants live their life. It was horrible. Usually at around 5 a.m., I would go out and walk out to the streets. And I saw so many street vendors and business owners. They sell their stuff on the streets without license. It's actually against the law, but they did it anyway. Why? Because they have to raise the family. They have got responsibility. They have to send the kids to the schools. So it's against the law. And police, all the police try to arrest them. There is a very extreme case. So I used to cover a story where there is a woman. She jumped from a building in Flushing. Why? Because the police was trying to arrest her for doing the prostitution in a massage parlor. So it is definitely against the law, the New York State law, to do the prostitution. But so many people did not understand that the immigrants are living a horrible life. They don't have the language skills, the living skills to survive in this society. And then those kind of stories motivated me to think what I can do to help those people. It makes me think about working in the government and also working in the census. Because what is the best way to make sure the immigrant communities get the fair funding, money, the representation, the respect they deserve? It is by getting them counted. If they get counted, and these situations happen again, I believe there will be representatives who can help speak up for those immigrant communities. For this woman who actually fell from the building, she actually died, from falling off the building. But what she wanted to do is just try to earn extra money. And her accident caused a lot of conversation in the New York State regarding legalizing the sex work. So this is the message that I want to convey to everyone: is that get your immigrant friends counted, get the immigrant communities counted. Because if you don't do that, when their situations happen, we who are the vulnerable immigrants are the first people to get attacked. So please do the action right now, because we don't have too much time. And thank you so much for giving me the stage. I'm really honored. And get yourself counted. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Yulin, for sharing that. It's so important that we all recognize other people's stories. It's important that we listen to one another here. And thank you, Yulin, for sharing every minute of your story, because we know that that passion has been guiding us as students. So thank you again. Now I will begin to introduce. We have a special guest in the house tonight. Please welcome Assembly Member Yulin for District 65, representing the Lower Manhattan District, including Chinatown, the Financial District, Battery Park City, and the Lower East Side.
Thank you so much, Tiara. I just wanted to also just say thank you to Yilin for her short testimony. I think that it's really important, the message that she was trying to give, and it's going to be very similar to mine because, you know, for those who don't know me, I am the assembly member who represents Lower Manhattan, including Financial District, Lower East Side, South Street Seaport, Battery Park City, and of course Chinatown. And I am also the only Asian American woman in the entire New York State legislature. So that's really about lack of representation as an overall thing, because in New York State, actually we make up more than 13% of the state's population, yet we have less than 2% of the representation. And that makes Asian Americans the least represented ethnic group in the entire state. So just wanted to say thank you for you know, sharing that story, Yilin, and also for talking about Yang Song's story. And I just wanted to say, you know, it's really important for us to say their names. And I think that, you know, what she had to go through is something that nobody had to have gone through. And I just really appreciate your bringing her up and talking about the importance of her story. I want to thank the amazing organizers and participants of this event for working to spread awareness for the 2020 census, while also speaking about every single one of your experiences with cuisine and culture. I have never been so hungry in my life. Of course, you guys had to do this at dinner time. And I am wanting shrimp and grits and also banana carrot bread. So right now I am starving, and I just wanted to say that I really appreciate all of you for taking the time to do this. So as we all obviously know, this is a census year, and proper census counting is so vital in ensuring that our community members have access to the resources that we all know we need. And especially now during this very, very difficult time, we know that it's even more important than ever that we are actually being counted, because the resources that we're all needing now, they are you know, funded by the funds that our government is able to get reimbursed. So just to talk about that a little bit, we just know that without accurate census information, New York is at risk of losing valuable funding for important programs such as Medicare, Title I funding, Section 8 housing, language accessibility, public education, child care assistance, foster care, and so many other crucial programs. Our share of nearly $800 billion of federal funding is at risk if we don't have an accurate count. And we had an inaccurate count, and so we lost a lot of these resources. So New York has been generating all this tax revenue, but hasn't been getting the same kind of public assistance that we've needed. So in addition, the census information determines the number of congressional seats for our state. If we are undercounted again, we lose vital representation and could potentially lose 2 seats in Congress. And that is very, very dire, as we are looking at some of the ways that people are flipping houses, trying to get seats, etc. This conversation is so important, because without representation, we don't have good policy. And without good policy, we are all left behind. So it's really important to do that. In my district, we really see the effects, for example, of underrepresentation in the census, because 41% of our total population in my district is Asian American. And of my district's immigrant population, 70.9% are Asian American. And yet we don't see that kind of representation, obviously, on the congressional level. AAPI immigrants have some of the highest undocumented rates in the US. And in addition, undocumented and AAPI immigrants are the fastest growing group of undocumented immigrants in the entire United States. We know that Asian Americans have been marginalized, erased from mainstream discourse, and oftentimes unfairly persecuted throughout history. Inaccurate and incomplete data only leads our AAPI and other vulnerable communities it leads to further erasure and invisibility to policymakers, and especially when allocating of funding is involved. For example, in the New York State budget, Asian Americans is not listed in the entire history of the New York State budget until I was elected. And even now, it's such a small, tiny percentage of the budget. Inaccurate and incomplete data just basically leaves us out of the story. Back in September, when we started preparing for the census collection, we put an emphasis on first acknowledging that our community can be hard to reach and is often overlooked, whether it be because of language barriers, cultural differences, or even a lack of representation. And we found it necessary to have people working for the census who can break down the barriers to reach our community and work toward an accurate count. Young people have stepped up, folks like Yilin have stepped up, and especially since the programs that a complete count would help fund are the programs that our most overlooked communities need the most. And so this is why it's vital to have a diverse group of people working for the census. So I appreciate all of you out there who are working for the census and who understand our community and the needs that our communities have. And so familiar faces in the neighborhood help to build that trust and work towards a more accurate count. Oftentimes, self-response rates are lower due to the fact that there's a lack of resources that are language and culturally accessible to our vulnerable communities. And that's why we need desperately to make sure that we are funding the census. So I have worked, even amidst the pandemic, to try to provide these language accessibility points and culturally accessible points, but we just need to keep on working. And I can't say enough of how exciting it is that you as a group of young people are stepping up to make sure that we are actually getting counted. So please, whoever's watching, get counted. It's up to you. And thank you so much for making sure that folks are getting the resources that they deserve. Right now in New York, in my district, we are seeing that the response rates for the wealthier individuals are lower than the folks who are low income. And so literally, if we are not doing the census and if everybody's not filling it out, not just the people who need the resources, but if everybody's not filling it out, then we're going to have huge disparities. So thank you so much again. Get counted. It's up to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Assemblywoman Yulene. Thank you for joining us today on where we can start with our own research. I think it's so important that you shared all that you shared today, such as how we will lose vital representation and lose 2 seats in Congress. Like, we need to understand that this is the gravity of what is happening in our world right now, and we have to take advantage of this very moment. So thank you again, Assemblywoman Yulene, for joining us. Speaking of international students and international, yep, it's that time. We're gonna start talking about, as CUNY students, how within our own community, we have friends of our own that we want to make sure are counted in the census, such as our international students. So we asked one of our international census core peers to help us create an informative and impartial presentation on studying abroad and the policies. So why our international students matter? International students promote a diverse environment on our schools, within our schools. International students enrich the campus life with their different cultural perspectives. As we know, going to different events and dancing and learning to different music, or meeting a new friend and learning a meal, such as we are today. International students bring about remarkable income opportunities as we all impact the economic state of where we live. International students contribute $45 billion to the US economy in 2018. And we can give them back a lot by counting all of them on the 2020 census. Next, please. So Richard Rendon from the Philippines, a CUNY student, shared with us, I am an international student and my major is philosophy. I am from the Philippines, located in Southeast Asia. The name Philippines came from King Philip of Spain, as we have been a colony of Spain for 500 years. The Philippines is an archipelago, consisting of 7,461 islands. Philippine culture is a mix of Malaysian, Chinese, Japanese, Spanish, American, and so much more. I think the US can help international students throughout their leaders by being a good example. Right now, we can see that leaders are somewhat far from being good examples, as he stated on his own words, Donald Trump. That's how I will share his words, as we all have the right to say as we feel. Thank you, Richard Rendon. Next, please. Now introducing Thea So from Myanmar. I am from Myanmar, also known as Burma. We have a pretty diverse culture. Myanmar is known for its friendly environment and some religious sites such as Shwedan Pagda in Yangon and temples of Bagan. Policies set for international students are pretty tight. I wish this tuition would not be so expensive, and I wish I was allowed to work more than 20 hours per week. Some of us need more financial support from the college. So thank you, Thea Sol. I hope you are watching, and thank you for sharing with us one of your favorite meals, and everyone can see this on the side. It's called Shan style tofu noodles. Thank you, Thea Sol. Now sharing with you words from Gisela Ismahi from Albania. My name is Gisela Ismahi. I was born and raised in a country in Europe called Albania. I would define my country as having unique traditional cultures. Albania is characterized by warm, welcoming people and a lively atmosphere. From the perspective of any international student, the persuasion of education in America is highly difficult due to the restriction of opportunities. In my opinion, one of the most significantly supported decisions the US can make towards the issue of international students is the allowance of employment. And shared with us here is grilled meatballs, also known as kofti. Forgive me if I'm saying this wrong. But also everyone, please remember, let us help our international students by counting all of them on the 2020 census and by providing them the same opportunities as everyone else. Thank you to Fahim for putting together this presentation, and for the international students that were unable to read them here today for us themselves. Thank you for sharing, and I hope you get to see this later. Thank you. And now we'll move on to introducing Dawn Kelly, who is an entrepreneur of her family business, The Nourish Spot, in Jamaica, Queens.
Hi, I'm Dawn Kelly from The Nourish Spot. The Nourish Spot is a Black family-owned business here in South Jamaica, Queens. We're located in the heart of Jamaica on Guy Arbor Boulevard. Our address is 10705 Guy Arbor Boulevard. We're about 4 blocks away from York College, and I actually served as the Director of Public Relations at York College between 1994, July of 1994, and December 1999. And I enjoyed a very good tenure at York, helping to create and promote lots of the programming that is currently on campus, including the partnership with the FDA. We established the Nourish Spot after my corporate role. When I left York, I went to work for a company called Prudential Financial. And when I left York, I worked there for nearly 16 years, leading global communications. In September of 2015, my role was eliminated, and I took my severance package and some of my savings to establish the Nourish Spot.
3 blocks away from York, and just a couple of steps away from where I live. Why I chose Jamaica, Queens, and this specific community for the Nourish Spot? Well, my family actually enjoys roots in this community since 1954, when my grandfather came home from the Army and wanted to live in newly finished Levittown, but because he was Black, they didn't allow him to live there. And so he was able to purchase a home here in South Jamaica. And I am fortunate that I was able to purchase it before he passed away. Why the census is important to the Nourish Spot and to small businesses. Then opening, to make the decision to open a business in any community, you need some information. You need some information. You need some information, and the information is opening a store in the best location. To make that decision, you have to know who is in your community. What's the demographics? What do they like? What do they dislike? You know, how do they spend their money? You know, what's their socioeconomic class? How many people are in their community? Because you need to know if you're going to have a market for your products and services. So that's one of the main reasons why I am on this call, advocating for every family, every person to stand up and be counted for the census. And then I also want to tell you, in this pandemic, it's important, especially as African American, you know, we're out here talking about Black Lives Matter, but we have to make sure that we're taking care of ourselves too. And so one of the things I want to tell you, I told you earlier that we're a healthy food and beverage haven. This is one of our really fan favorite drinks, smoothies here at the Nourish Spot. It's called the Green Goblin smoothie. And the Green Goblin has all kind of goodies in it. We didn't want to make a lot of noise, so we blended it already. But these are the goodies in it. Can you see? We have some cucumber. We have banana. We have some kale is in it. Okay. We have some celery, apple. Here's a piece of apple. Okay. And some ginger. And all of these things combined together are good for your heart. Ginger is good for your digestion. Kale is good for your eyes. Celery is good for your metabolism, and so on and so forth. So listen, our tagline here at the Nourish Spot is "Come, let us nourish you" at the Nourish Spot. But what I'm going to say is, what's even more important, well, not even more important, what goes along with nourishing yourself is the money, power, and respect that we will get from each one of us standing up and being counted for the Census 2020. You only get this opportunity every 10 years. Please don't squander it. Fill out the census. Thank you. Oh, and if you want to come see us, we're open 9:30 to 6, Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 7 on Saturdays. And if you can't come here yourself for curbside pickup, call 718-526-2099 or contact DoorDash, Uber Eats, Postmates, or Grubhub, and they'll bring the food to your house. Again, come, let us nourish you. And thank you, CUNY Census Corp, for inviting the Nourish Spot to participate.
Thank you so much, Dawn. I'm so happy to see you here. And
thank you.
Tell your daughter I said hi.
I will. She couldn't come, so I did it all by myself, Tiara.
All right. So now we're gonna go in to say that it is very important that we fill out the census for our communities and for our local businesses. There's so many ways that filling out the census is important for smaller local businesses. And if you haven't completed the census already, please do it for this reason, especially if you know someone. I'm sure they will appreciate that you're supporting their business in this way by filling out the census. So if you would like to also support Dawn, go through to the Nourish Spot or check out the website and call ahead for your order. And next, we will introduce a video from a culinary student named Tanika. She is from the Institute of Culinary Education, here with a delicious food recipe. Everyone enjoy.
Hello everyone, my name is Tanika Temporal. I'm currently a student at the Institute of Culinary Arts in New York. I am an aspiring chef, and you can follow me on Instagram at Chic Chef Neeks. That is Chic, CHIC _ CHEFNEEKS. Again, that's Chic Chef Neeks, CHIC _ CHEFNEEKS. Today, I've prepared one of my all-time favorite and delicious meals. That's chicken and vegetable stir fry. Come on, give it its close-up, give it its close-up. Over a bed of white rice. Yes. This meal is one of the first meals that I was taught to make by my late aunt when I was about 12 years old. And pretty much it came about because the only thing at that age that I knew how to make was white rice. Making white rice was like my chore. So my mom would say, when you get home from school, after you finish your homework, you're gonna make the rice, and when she gets home from work, she'd make some sort of stew to go along with it. This particular day, my aunt was like, I think it's time that you learn to make some sort of stew to go along with the rice. And that is where I learned this wonderful, quick, did I mention delicious recipe that pretty much is like 3 ingredients: chicken and all your favorite vegetables. And I say all because I love a lot of vegetables. Today, in my stir fry, I've added broccoli, mushrooms, baby corn. Yes, all that stuff is so good. But another reason that I really love this dish and it's near and dear to me is also because being a working mom of 2, it's super fast to make. You can make this meal literally in under 25 minutes. Actually, I'm gonna say 25 minutes tops. Anything over that, I'm not sure. Something might be going. Because you still want your vegetables to have that little crunch, nice little bite, but you also do want whatever poultry you use to be cooked all the way through. This dish is very healthy. My kids love their specific vegetables, so feel free to make it any way you like. Add whatever vegetables that you love, all your favorites, and spice it up. Also, 2 things that I also add. I do honey, soy sauce, sauteed in the wok, and done. Sometimes I do throw in some onions and garlic, depending on my mood. I mean, usually garlic is in every recipe that I make because that is my favorite ingredient of all time. Garlic in anything. So today, I also want to tell you a few of the meals that I love to cook. Some of my favorite meals to cook. So I love anything like on the grill. I'm a summer girl, so grilling is definitely my thing. But if I had to pick, that's a steak on the grill. That's definitely one of my go-to dishes. I also, if you follow me on Instagram, you're gonna see my garlic honey chili wings. To die for. Super good. And another dish that I want to say is like I really do like to make, and it's also because it's a quick meal, which is my creamy garlic penne pasta. Very creamy, very rich, but yet very hearty and fulfilling. I also want to tell you about one of my favorite pastimes. One of my favorite family cooking memories is literally growing up when I was a little girl, and my mom used to make fresh baked bread every Sunday afternoon and just eating it hot out the oven with butter. Oh my, like I can taste it now. And to this day, I still love hot, fresh baked bread out the oven with a little bit of butter. I can eat that like anytime, as long as the bread is hot, freshly made, and out the oven with bread. I really, it's just like something, just watching my mom bake the bread, make the bread, knead the dough, all of those things. As a child, I was just like in awe, and I used to stand next to her, and I remember being covered in flour because I'm trying to help her knead the dough. But yes, it's definitely one of my favorite memories of cooking, and I've already recreated that with my own children, where we bake together. My daughter's my sous chef at home when I'm cooking and I'm doing orders. She's definitely there chopping and helping me out and encouraging me on to be a great chef. And I really hold that near and dear to my heart. So thank you for watching. And I hope you definitely try out this meal. Chicken vegetable stir fry. Remember, follow me, Chic Chef Neeks.
Thank you, Chef Neeks, for sharing your experience with us. It's so important that we remember our experiences growing up and just what it takes to put together a meal. And I'm sure that connects to your passion. So thank you for sharing that video with us. Everyone, if you would like to support Chef Neeks, her Instagram will be shared on our Census Cooks Instagram account. So make sure you're following us. Follow us at Census Cooks at Instagram. We will be sharing the recipes from tonight. We will be shouting out the chefs here tonight. And if any organizations want to go ahead and share with any recipes that they had today, make sure to send it to the Instagram, or even go ahead and send it to our email account, which is censuscooks@gmail.com. So we already have dozens of recipes, from kimchi fried rice to a fried crepe cake to pineapple glazed pork chops and more on the account. So please check out the Instagram and the recipes along with the census facts. So now we would like to introduce a amazingly creative and talented poet, Tatiana Duguay. She'll be talking about race, diversity, and American politics.
Hi everyone, I'm Tatiana Duguay. I'm a student at Columbia, and although you guys have been getting so many great food tips, I'm going to give you some food for thought. So thank you to everyone who put together this event. I'll be sharing about 3 poems. I hope you like them. So first off, James Baldwin once said, "I love America more than any other country in the world. And for exactly this reason, I insist on the right to criticize her perpetually." So in this first poem called America, I exercise that right. I hope you enjoy it. I do not want to ever understand why we fight over our safety for a line in the sand, why we push our boundaries with chains and fences, why we break down homes to build our defenses. I will never, ever see justice in the eyes of a cop looking down at children cry. I will never see truth in suits covered in silk when they sit and stare at their people being killed. I do not understand how a land can be so free on paper and so barred in real life. America, the land of the free, truly the land of free strife. Countless children have been killed, have been shot down, have been lost. But when they do not match the race of the politician's face, when they do not fit with an agenda, when they are not worth the cost, they are not America's problem. They are someone else's. And this is why I will never understand how people can think a country so broken can be so great, when all it seems to offer is misogyny, racism, and rape. Okay, so my next poem is about my hair, a little lighter, and how it reflects my race, but also so much more. This poem is called My Hair. My hair feels like hay sometimes. The other, it feels like silk. My natural state is woolly, but my tangles serve me good. My hair curls upon curls, leaving most items that touch it in a whole new world. My hair is mocked with hatred, with jealousy and discrimination. My hair is honored and admired, for it represents liberation. My hair is a part of me, a piece of my identity, and if anyone would like to question it, I'll handle it with ease and grace. For my locks on my hair do not control me, but remind me of my race, my culture, my history, my attitude and my mystery, my soul, my art, my hair. And to finish up my participation in this truly wonderful event, I wanted to share a poem about love and labor and how together the waters become easier to sail. This poem is called Stone Shoulders. I watch you as you turn in the night. Your soft skin exposes the stones in your shoulders. Rough rapids glide down the small of your back, sliding the satin shirt off your shoulder. My hands loosen that noose around your neck, pulling at the tight muscles that harden those stones. Once rough and jagged, now smooth and polished gold. Through holy water anointed, I lie next to you in the cold. Wet and shivering in these streams, I hope to be shaped by the same waters as you, the same dreams. The journey aged and slow, I know it will be hard to catch up to you. But as we smooth together in the rhythm of these sharp waves, we make this stream easier to sail. Thank you so much to everyone.
Hi, everyone. Am I here? Okay. Thank you so much, Tatiana, for sharing those wonderful poems. And excuse any noises in the background. I'm really so impressed with Tatiana's thoughtfulness. And I hope that encourages us to think about different ways about why the census is important. Before I get into my presentation about things we can do to help increase the census count, I wanted to shout out some members of our audience on Facebook. Thank you to Vicky, Megan, Justin, and Renata English for your support. Thank you for helping us on Facebook. Thank you for helping us and watching this presentation. We're so glad you're here, and to everyone else who is joining us today. I'm going to be sharing some tips. We've been hearing for the past hour or so about ways we can increase the census count and why that's important. But it's a little confusing, like why do we need to fill out the census and how can we actually help? So I'll be sharing some small things you can do from home, not that much of a big effort. And as we mentioned earlier, the census count is going to be closing by the end of September. That's a whole month earlier than originally planned. And COVID has disrupted so many of the census efforts, and there's so much work to be done. So please, please, please consider just helping out. I'll share some ways to do that. Just a reminder, becoming a civic advocate for the census is actually super easy. You can do it from home. There have been so many volunteers doing this in the past few months, but we definitely need more help, and you can do this. It's essential work. It is essential work because every single person we have counted in the census, like Assemblyman Yulene mentioned earlier, is another person counted towards our federal resources, towards the hospitals, schools that we're building in our communities. So please help out and please fill out the census. Of course, the first step, very basic. Uncle Bernie is telling you again, please fill out your census. Make sure everyone in your household is counted. Please take another step and just ask your neighbors, ask your friends to fill out the census when you can. It only takes less than 10 minutes. The next step you can do, also very, very easy, is diversify your feed. Make sure you follow census accounts on social media. Make sure you follow the census news. There are things changing every day. And I know during this time, it feels like there's so many things happening every single day. But keeping abreast of these new things will help you become a better census advocate. So yes, follow on social media, follow hashtags and social media accounts, and follow organizations that are making a difference, like Common Point Queens, who we heard from earlier today. Make sure to follow your local political leaders too. And share with others, a very, very easy step. We thankfully have communications with our neighbors, with our friends online and digitally. So when you are talking to your friend, your family, your coworker, please just remind them to fill out the census. One easy way to do this is to just text 5 people the top of your contact list and just remind them to fill it out and tell one other person. And your network will build and build and build until really, hopefully, everyone fills out the census. You can also share this information on your social media pages in a fun way. You can talk about it with current events. Here is a link, the Hester Street link is a cool way to see if your community has filled out the census and how much. Some neighborhoods are at 50%, some are at 70. So it's a very interesting thing to take a look at. And another way you can do this is combining it with your interests. This whole event has been about cooking, about poetry, about music. So we are combining our particular interests with the census because they all are so intertwined, and you can do that too. And yes, again, on social media, please repost census information and different accounts post. This step is a little bit more involved because you're getting involved in your community, but there are different ways you can do this. One, you can find local organizations that are doing census advocacy and see how you can help. Every organization that has participated in this wonderful event has been doing census work. So we can link you to them, or you can find ones that are working in your particular community or neighborhood and see what they're up to. This will definitely help hard to count populations. And if you speak another language or know someone else who does, you are so valuable, and we can be so helpful in increasing the count. You can do this by helping with translation of census materials, texting people who may not receive English census information. You can do this by phone banking or text banking. Just identify what skill sets you have and use them to build your census advocacy. One more project I wanted to shout out is 10 Minutes Count. If you were here since the very beginning, we love you. Thank you for staying on for so long. The Pass the Plate video we did at the very beginning of this event was inspired by the 10 Minutes Count campaign. Much like the census, it just takes 10 minutes to do a single thing. So 10 minutes to make a recipe, 10 minutes to make a drink. And if you can do that in 10 minutes, you can fill out the census. That's a video campaign you can partake in as well. The email is right there, and you can email us later after the event too to get more information. And this is just a little bit more about the 10 Minutes Count project. It's not a video. You can see the Instagram and look it up later. But 10 minutes to make a mango nada. I've never made that before. Maybe you can try it while you fill out the census. Other things you can do to get involved, you can think about local places in your neighborhood, food pantries, stores, post offices, parks, where you can spread the census message. If you have a printer, you can print out a few flyers. They're available all over online, and you can just post them and expand how many people are filling out the census. And you can volunteer. Volunteering takes obviously so many different forms, but if you are into formal volunteering and are lucky to have that time, please do so. There are so many organizations that could use your help in the census efforts. These are just some upcoming opportunities to volunteer on the phone. It requires minimal training and it's super helpful. You reach almost, I would say, 50 to 60 people within 1 hour of calling. And that's incredible. I don't think we can do that with all on our own. These are with the New York City Census, so please check them out. This is just one more reminder. We just heard a few days ago that the census efforts are being cut, as I mentioned earlier. This is severely consequential to our communities, our hard-to-cut and immigrant and minority communities all around the nation and in New York City particularly. So every single effort you take to spread the message of the census is going to help us deal with this horrible change. There are currently nearly 8.4 million people living in New York City, but as of August 6th, only about 55% have responded to the census. And that's almost 4 million people not being counted. That's 4 million people who we are not accounting for in federal resources, in representation in Congress, in money for healthcare, schools, and hospitals. And that's very critical to raise this number within the next 2 months. And yes, like I've said countless times, every census completed matters. Every census completed will get us more to the actual population of New York City. So thank you, and please consider taking part in more census efforts.
Thank you so much for that, Abir. Thank you to everyone who shared and presented today. We saw so many great recipes, dishes, presentations that only emphasize the importance and value of food, culture, and community. These are the ties that keep us together and connected, despite any superficial differences we may think we have. This event was a beautiful representation of New York City diversity and is something we should always be proud of and protect. We want our beautiful communities and culture supported, counted, funded, and represented by our government. The 2020 census is our chance to have our voices heard and will impact us for the next 10 years. So be an agent of change and fill out your census, and make sure to share with your family, friends, neighbors, or even bring it up to a complete stranger at the grocery store if that's something you're into. Just spread the word because we need your voice. And before we go, Census Cooks would like to express special thanks. We are grateful for the support of everyone who joined to watch this show today. So thank you, and please check out our Instagram account and we'll share more information of stats and how you can be involved and a bit of what you saw in terms of the call to action. But moving on, I will say thank you to Julie Kim, who's our Queensboro lead of the Queensfield team of the New York City Census 2020. Thank you, Yilin Wang, Isabel Garcia, and Fatima Mohammed, the cultural liaisons of the Queensfield team, and our supervisors. Thank you, Colette Labrador, Director of the CUNY Census Project. Thank you, Erica Fu, Project Coordinator of the CUNY Census Project. And thank you, Kristen Grennan, Director of Digital Communications of New York City Census 20. Thank you, Sasha Bedher Schenker, Deputy Field Director of New York City Census 2020. Thank you, Daniela Boykin, Director of the Strategic Partnerships of New York City Census 2020. Thank you, James Garcia, Director of the New York City Service of Mayor's Office Outreach. Thank you, Fadia Mahama, Census Manager of Common Point, Queens. Thank you, Jared Mintz, Director of Communications at Common Point, Queens. And thank you to our presenters, Jadron Rojas, Jeremiah Sedeno, Melanie Taharazano, Carmelita Cunningham, Jessica Sutherland, Assemblymember Yulin Yu, Don Kelly, Brandon Lim, Chef George, Chef Colby, Chef Tanika, and Tatiana Duge. And also a thanks to our team, starting with Avir Petuala, Alejandrina Carpio, Antonio Bountuvas, Kaylee Hintz, Fahim Hoti, Nora Abdelrazik, Ophelia Houseland, Samira Shadhuri, and that is my name there, Tiara Desire. Thank you everyone for joining us, and stay tuned.